to go onto those campuses.
Yeah, that was the agreement. That was the agreement with the city when they put some money towards the Spark Parks.
No, and that could be part of this discussion too, if that field is part of that Spark.
I think it was.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Then that means it's going to be getting a lot more use than maybe some other campuses too. We have this type of field. So if there's, and that's an active, involved community. I mean, and they are, that school is their heart. So.
Okay, so what we want to do is take no action on this and ask for further information. Oh, I'm
yes.
sorry.
Oh, sorry. No. Just a quick question. Is there any way that somebody could explain to us the maintenance issues that these things can have? Is there, like special things that have to, I know the cleaning every quarter, I get that, but is there anything else, reattachment, taking sections out, things like this?
So far, you're doing a great job of describing them. You really are. I mean, these are the things it can get torn. Like I'll give you, for instance, at all of our high schools, we have those turf fields for practice, right? Those fields used to be open to the public. What happened is we had to start locking them because on weekends, community were coming in and barbecuing on the top of the fields.
Well, what's to keep them from doing that?
These are just things that you have to consider and accept in something like this. So, our field over at the sports park with the baseball field, I know we've had to replace pieces of it. So sometimes, I don't know, Coach Parker, are you in here? Upstairs. So I know at that sports park there was actually a drainage issue, and a part of it started to sink underneath where we had to lift it up and redo the underneath. So there can be issues with it. Could it be great? Absolutely. We may never have an issue for 10 years. The question becomes, in 10 years then, it's ours, it's on our property. So then what do we do with it? How do we, continue to fund that moving on? Because you have to replace it at some point. It doesn't go on forever. So these are just things I think that you all are wise to ask. What does that all look like? What does that mean to us in 10 years from now? And then what's the unintended consequence of accepting a great gift like this that people worked very hard for? And I just want to make sure you all understand it up front. Hey, this is what it is, rather than just taking it on and cause something different, a different problem.
Are we involved in the review of the construction contract or anything like that at this point, or is it even got?
They have a quote that they gave us, and our engineering department would assist with any kind of installation to make sure that everything's not done.
Okay. Good. One of my fundamental questions is, it did still good because it looked like it was back from November. So I guess we need to make sure that that's still appropriate for the school before we, because all of a sudden that $136,000 can now be $165,000 if we're not careful. And I don't want to put the school in a position where now they have to raise an extra $20,000 for something they thought they were going to get. But then I think reiterate all the rest of the questions. Are we overseeing it? Who's installing it? All of that stuff. Make sure we have answers on all that.
Okay. Did anybody else have any comments or questions? Okay, so that's no action on that item. Item B, internal audit. 1, possible action regarding independent audit services contract issues.
Good evening, President Groen and trustees, Dr. Micah, executive staff and guests. Tonight I bring to you a request for your approval to award the contract for independent audit services. A little background information. The Texas Education Code requires all public school districts to have their fiscal accounts audited annually at district expense by a certified public accountant holding a permit from the Texas State Board of Public Accountancy. An independent audit must meet the minimum requirements and be in the format prescribed by the State Board of Education. Texas Government Code states that a district shall make the selection of their provider for independent audit services based on demonstrated competence and qualifications and a fair and reasonable price. In addition to this guidance, TEA further states that along with considering qualifications and costs, Districts should also consider other factors when selecting their independent audit services, such as experience of the interested accounting firm in public school accounting, and the availability and location of the interested accounting firm's staff. This contract for independent audit services is for a 1-year period with the option to extend the agreement on an annual basis for an additional 4 years. So this current contract could be through the end of fiscal year 27. The request for qualification, the RFQ, was issued to all known companies and advertised in the San Antonio newspaper as required. An evaluation committee comprised of Senior Director of Accounting and Finance, Jeff Coates, Senior Director of Grants Administration and Financial Control, Ms. Mary Alex, and myself, was formed to evaluate the responses received. And I'd like to publicly thank them. They're both here with me tonight, and we're such a great wealth of knowledge. Our committee evaluated the RFQ responses in 2 rounds. The first round, all interested firms' proposals were evaluated on the required criteria, the qualifications and price factors. All firms met the minimum criteria. The evaluation committee then selected 3 firms to move on to our final round of review. In this second and final round, the firms were evaluated not only on their qualifications and price, but also on their depth of experience in public school accounting and auditing, depth of experience auditing public school districts similar to our size, the location of the firm, the availability of the audit team to conduct work on site, the rotation of key personnel to ensure objectivity, and the overall 5-year fee structure to ensure long-term fiscal responsibility. The evaluation committee called and spoke with each of the firm's references, and they put references of other school districts that they audit. As well, we conducted interviews with the 3 firms on March 22nd, so of last month. Throughout the evaluation process, the evaluation committee kept the district's balanced scorecard in the forefront of our minds, specifically priority 4, stewardship, which guides us to plan and manage funds and our resources responsibly. While some of the evaluation criteria was really quite similar and equal between the interested firms, we decided upon the selected firm for 2 important reasons. A local firm here in San Antonio with the most fair and reasonable price. The cost comparisons for the firms were provided to you prior to tonight's action item, along with the rankings, the evaluation ranking, of the committee in those 2 rounds. So you have that to reference. After our review and careful evaluation of the firms, the evaluation committee has selected ABIP as our recommendation to you this evening. ABIP is a local firm with offices here in San Antonio. The partners responsible for our audits would be Ms. Janet Pittman and Mr. Michael Del Toro. Both of them are here tonight. Thank you again for coming. Together they have over 55 years of experience in auditing and accounting of government entities and public school districts in Texas. It is recommended that the firm ABIP be retained as our external auditor for Northeast ISD for the year ending 2023 with the possibility of renewal for 4 more years. And at that, if there are any questions.
Mr. Madam President, before you take it, I should have said this before my shoesmith started. I introduced myself on this.
Okay. A couple questions. Thank you, Ms. Shoesmith, for that. On page 4, looking at the round 2 criteria, so ABIP, thank you all for being here, but I see in Whitney Penn 3 areas they scored better, which is more experience on staff and interview. Now, I'm not sure if Whitney Penn is local or not. Their cost was a few $1,000s more a year, so about $31,000 over the 5-year scope. But there is the balanced district scorecard. It is about balance too. So is Whitney Penn a locally staffed?
Yes, sir.
They're not. Where are they? Just curious. Austin, Dallas, Houston. So they don't have local staff.
Correct.
Is that what
Yes, sir.
they're looking at the cost criteria? So just trying to figure out as we're balancing all that. Okay. I think that answers my question. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you, Madam President.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion to approve the public accounting firm ABIP PC for the independent audit services for the district for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2023, with the possibility of renewal for 4 years?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Villarreal. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Landry. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries, and Mr. Byer recused himself.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and thank y'all for being here. Item C, board policy. 1, follow-up discussion and possible action regarding revisions to board policy FNG local. So that, all of the changes based on our workshop were submitted. Mr. Lopez did review it. He had a comment on, about the email, making sure that Reva monitored it and to ensure that verbal protected or other confidential information was not shared with anyone. So that would be a staff thing. Are there any comments or questions about the changes to this FNG with all of the changes from the last meeting?
I present 2 comments and then 2 questions, but first off, it was a great discussion. I watched online. Thank you for reading my comments. I appreciate it, Mrs. Randall. The fact that we have timelines level 3 and 4 is awesome. 2 questions were, in the last meeting, Dr. Michael, we talked about, we all talked about with an infographic or flow chart, but that, I didn't see that in our packet. Is that?
We haven't gotten, once you all confirm this, then we can work on an infographic. I don't want to design an infographic if you have any more changes.
That's fair, and I might have missed that nuance in the conversation. And the other comment, Mr. Byer brought up a good point. We've done parent and guardian in most of our recent updates. I didn't see the parent guardian change here. Do we do that before we finally approve it, or approve it with that?
I think we can approve it with that change, and I apologize, I didn't
Yeah,
catch that.
I just agree.
What I was wondering though, because you know, like we did days as a one descriptor and at the beginning, wonder if at the beginning, just for brevity's sake, and just say, the term parent here is meant to include parent guardian. And then that way it's all, then it covers everything in the document without having to go back and make a bunch of changes. Because I caught that too, and I know we had such a great discussion about it.
Just put up there with definitions like we did.
Yeah.
Sure. I'm okay with that if there's no issues. It's simpler.
Right, we can approve it with that, assuming there's a link. Everything else, then we just include that with whatever approval.
That where we're doing those definitions, we just say parent, the term parent means parent guardian.
So it could be on page 4 of the document where it says general provisions, person with whom to file, and then it defines days.
Yes.
Well, or there where it says definitions, the term
Page-
Oh, at
complaint.
the very top,
Page 1
yeah,
would be
page
an
1.
The very beginning. Yeah.
Okay, and, so
Yeah.
put.
Yeah, I wondered,
guardian under
maybe days should be
definitions.
moved up there to definitions then too. I knew we took it out in my place.
I do think you should get the definitions because the second sentence under complaints is student or parent complaint. That way we define parent and we start talking about it. And then terms parent will be guardian. It's not working. Yeah, other than that, thank you.
Okay, anybody have anything else?
I think the only other, I think we talked about putting days definitions, if that's what we just said.
Okay, so we're gonna move
Is
days
that what I just heard?
from page 4 to under definition.
Yeah, because I think that was, sets it up so that people have to find it later.
Okay, and then define the parent guardian.
Yeah, I think other than that.
Okay, anything else? God, do you have that, Ms. Turner? Thank you. All right, so do I have a motion to approve the revisions to board policy FNG local?
So move that.
Thank you, Mr. Hilliard. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Byer. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, the motion carries. Item D, campus administration. 1, possible action regarding approval of T-test appraiser. Mr. Jimenez.
Thank you, President Grona, members of the board, Dr. Micah, executive staff, and guests. Charlie Whitney will address this agenda item.
Good evening. Board policy and Texas Education Code requires that teachers are appraised by a certified appraiser who's their direct supervisor or someone who's approved by the board. Although all of our principals and assistant principals are certified appraisers, we have experienced retirements this year and also employees on a leave of absence, leaving some campuses with not enough appraisers to fulfill all the components that tonight I present to you a name to approve that can serve as an appraiser for our campuses. And that name is Martha Rodriguez-Stoffert, one of our executive directors of school administration. This may be something we come to in future years or months to do. We only have to approve her once, and then if we add any new names, we have to come forward with that name specifically. But also with Tia, that might be something as well that we present more names for you in the future.
So we're just adding somebody as an appraiser.
Correct, you're just approving her to be a certified appraiser for campus personnel.
Does anybody have any questions about that?
Just one question, is she the only above campus level THS certified person, or are there more people like central office that are THS?
We have others, some that we have to renew, but for now, we just designated her.
Okay, so we have more there, because I was just saying, it's always good to have a backup or alternate in case she ever has a family member issue. Okay, so we have multiple that can fill the roles, we're just adding her.
Yes, sir.
She's not the single point filler.
Correct.
Okay, that's it, Madam President, thanks.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the attached list of administrators as appraisers?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Byer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hilliard. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Whitman. Item E, Business Services 1, possible action regarding extension of depository contract. Mr. Villarreal.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Mike, executive staff, and guests. Tonight we bring to you a request to extend our depository contract with Wells Fargo. This will be our third 2-year renewal. We first used them starting in 2019, so we respectfully request approval.
Anybody have any questions about that?
Yes. Have you checked out their financials?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because what I'm hearing is not good.
Right now, the flux of I guess, the banking system, but we are insured with in all our, I guess they have to provide securities for everything that we have in the banks. And really, it's just an in and out of that we use to pay bills and we have our monies in other areas. So they're just a depository bank for us that we use to pay bills and things of that type. So right now, if we were to go out for bid, I'm not sure we would get any more, I guess, bidders. It was hard a few years ago because a lot of the banks, the national banks, started, I guess, merging. But for our perspective, I think they're pretty strong. I know banking in general, but I have not heard anything about Wells Fargo.
And there's a list, it's not good.
Right.
So I just, but as long as you say that we are protected.
Yes, ma'am.
Because it would be devastating if they
Oh,
suddenly
yes.
did a bail-in, and,
Right.
the school district loses money.
Right. No, ma'am. We would be covered.
Any other questions? All right, do I have a motion to approve the resolution extending the depository contract with Wells Fargo Bank N.A.?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Byer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hilliard. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Item 2, possible action regarding termination of 401A employee retirement plan. Mr. Villarreal.
Yes, Madam President. I call on Susie Lackhorn, our Executive Director of Finance and Accounting, and Mr. David Gracia, our Senior Director of Employee Benefits, to talk about this topic.
Hello?
Yeah.
All right. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Mike, executive staff, and guests. Tonight, we're bringing to you the dissolution of a very old retirement supplemental plan. It was actually an incentive plan. And so, Mr. David Gracia is going to walk you through this plan and why we want to dissolve it.
Good evening. So just a couple of slides with some background information. First of all, what is a 401A? This is an employer-sponsored profit-sharing plan that allows employers to provide dollar or percentage-based employer contributions on employees' behalf. And as Ms. Lackhorn mentioned, in 2005, NEISD created a 401A primarily as a retention and attendance incentive, but also to try to see and promote supplemental retirement savings for our employees. In 2009, after 5 years, the plan was halted. We made a decision not to carry that forward. So since 2009, there's been no employer contributions to that plan. The plan as written had a 5-year investment schedule. So as of 2015, all the participants were fully vested, which means that all the funds in these accounts are belong to the participants. In 2021, TIA, a different TIA that you've been hearing about today, TIA is a plan administrator. They decided that it was no longer in their best interest to administer these accounts because there were no longer any injections of funds coming into those accounts. So at renewal time, they talked about raising fees close to 300%, those types of things. At that time, the Office of Employee Benefits decided to go to an RFP for a different administrator. And at that time, a company called Empower was selected as the best value for the district. And TIA submitted no bid at that time. Just some other information regarding the breakdown of the account. Part of that transition going from TIA to Empower involved a 60-month transfer of these funds. When we're talking about funds like this, they don't just go in a lump sum because it creates a hardship on the company that's releasing those funds. So it's not uncommon to have a 5-year plan like this. So essentially, every month, 1/60th of those funds go over to Empower. And what that's done is created 2 accounts for these participants. There's one on the TIA, which is sending it over, and then one in Empower, the receiving. So the employees got 2 accounts. There's roughly $10 million in the entire fund. 7 of that remains at TIA still. 3.5 or so, close to 4 are already at Empower. There's about 5,500 current participants. And I'll show you in the next schedule, but a lot of them are very small balances. And the record keeping fees for those right now with Empower are $28 a year plus 60 base points, which is a 0.006 of whatever the balance is on those accounts. And I put that just so for a reference point, the 457 plans have a 0.0028 base points, which is significantly less than this 401. I mentioned in the previous slide that there was a 5-year investment schedule. Not everybody made that investment schedule, and when people do not make the investment schedule, we cannot recoup those funds that were contributed to the account on their behalf. So by default, they go into what's called a forfeiture fund, and there's a balance in the fund, and those funds have been used to kind of shield the smaller balance, or basically all the accounts for the fees that they've been incurring since we've moved over to Empower. So that's important because those funds will basically run out over time if we continue to allow that to happen. On the next slide, this is kind of a breakdown of where the accounts are and the balances. You can see less than 60% of the accounts have less than $50. So over 3,000 participants have less than $50. So in my previous, when I was talking about the fees, if somebody has a $50 balance in their account, there's about $5 per month that would hit those fees. So within 10 months, those balances would be wiped out. If you take it all the way down to $5,000, which right now the plan as it's written allows us to liquidate any accounts with less than $5,000. That's 90% of these participants. So that's just kind of a breakdown of where the balances are and how they break out. So again, a lot of small balance type accounts. So the options really are 2 from our perspective. Number 1 would be to do nothing and just allow that to happen until the funds work out those smaller balance accounts. But I think the better plan and what we're asking for your approval is to start the process of terminating that plan or deconverting that plan. And that would require us to work with these 2 companies to just kind of safeguard as much as we can of those funds before they get eaten up by the fees. And the model for the deconversion process is here. it's pretty structured. The first step is coming to you here today to get your approval to move forward. Once we have that, we'll establish a termination date. We'll work with deconversion teams from TIA and from Empower to establish the communication tools, the dates that we terminate, the options for rollovers that those employees would have, as well as any types of decisions to cut checks for those people, send them that information and all the tax implications from that. So that's about it. If you have any questions.
Does anyone have any questions regarding this? I'm sorry. Okay. Do I have a motion to approve commencement of the process necessary to terminate the 401A retirement plan and to authorize the superintendent or designee to proceed with execution of all necessary steps to terminate the plan?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Villarreal. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hilliard. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you. All right. Item G, consent. 1, business services. A, bid items. B, 50,000 purchases. 2, operations. A, professional service contracts, construction contracts, and related contract amendments supporting the 282 ESSER 3 and M&O program funds design and construction requirements. 3, minutes from March 2023. 4, end of consent. Do I have a board member wishing to pull an item from consent?
Madam President, I'm not sure if I have to pull the item, but I need to recuse myself from item 1B, the 50,000 purchases.
So then you probably need to
pull that, and I also would like to pull item 3, minutes from March 2023.
Okay, anybody else have anything? So do I have a motion to approve consent without 1B and 3?
So moved.
Mr. Byer, Mr. Hilliard, I'll give you the second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, the motion carries. Okay. So item 1B, do I have a motion to approve 1B with Mr. Byer recusing himself? Thank you, Mr. Hilliard. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Landry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Okay, item 3, Mr. Byer.
Yeah, on the minutes, at the end, it's A2, where we talked about the review and discussion regarding student disciplinary policies. It recaps the discussion, but then there's some information here that is kind of follow-up to the discussion that's actually in the minutes. And I don't know if that's supposed to be in the minutes or if we needed to get an email response to all of us based on inquiries made. This is,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, March 27th, I apologize. Yeah, I'm sorry.
and when
March
did we get the
27th.
minutes emailed to us?
That was on Thursday, Madam President. They were part of the draft package with some other items. It's the fifth attachment last week.
I guess I haven't necessarily seen in our minutes before where we have a follow-up. In the minutes, it's information about some follow-up between Dr. Micah and Ms. Villarreal, and I just want to make sure that we're separating if it's not an item that was discussed here, that we're not necessarily including in the minutes. Does that make sense? If it's something we asked for later to be emailed
Are you
to
talking
us.
about the
or
last
the-
sentence
the
in
last-
number 2?
Well, mixed in the second paragraph and the last sentence.
Oh, where he requested
Where it-
staff further.
Yes.
Which way?
I don't know that we necessarily need to change it, but it says, after some research conducted by staff, it was discovered that in the past, at least 10 schools did practice some concepts of restorative discipline. On this finding, Dr. Micah requested the staff look into it further at 10 schools. That all happened after the meeting, and I don't know.
Oh, I thought it was during the conversation of,
Okay, well, then the last sentence. when it
and I
says-
think that was in there too, because I think maybe that was where it was a
Okay.
request for
And
a
I
report.
completely misread that. I read that as, I remember those discussions, but I don't remember, it read as if that it happened at the meeting, so I will
Okay, so you could.
move to approve
Okay,
item, consent item 3.
okay, do I have a second?
Submitted.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carries. Item 11, reports. A, internal financial and management reports. B, awarded bid report. C, federal grants report. D, open records request report. Those have been provided for you. Item 12, discussion and possible action regarding board members' requests for items to be placed on the future agenda and our request for reports from the administration. A board member wishing for anything?
I do. Matter of fact, I had requested a couple of board meetings back about a report on our suicide prevention that we do in the district. And I've also given Dr. Micah a card to talk to one of the other school districts. And I was wondering, I was trying to do a follow-up on that because I'm really concerned because the numbers are just not good on that. And I'm wondering what we're doing to help these kids.
Do you want a report or do you want a presentation?
Something, you just give me some numbers, you tell me what you're doing. You don't have to go through a whole entire dog and pony show or anything like that, just, you know.
Yeah, because I know I gave the card to Mr. Jarrett, and I know he had reached out regarding that information that you provided, so.
Okay.
So you just want me to send y'all a follow-up to?
I'd just like a report to see if it's even feasible for something for us to even talk about as a
Okay.
board. If I don't know what's involved, so that's why I was asking if you could possibly do something, because the program sounded amazing and it was kid driven.
Okay, so Ms. Villarreal, what we can do, why don't I provide you what we currently do in-house? And then, so that you can see the things that we are doing, and then, that way then you can use that and compare it to that program that you sat in and decide whether that would amplify it or whether we already have enough. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Do we need to make a motion on this, or is it just?
What's a report?
Okay.
Hey, will we all get the report just for our awareness? Correct, I thought I was right. Did you get
Mr.
that?
Hilliard, if I'm gonna send it to
I
all
figured as
seven.
much.
Yes,
Sure. Thanks.
Anybody?
Just one more point, I'm sorry, but is that something that we can then, if it looks like it would be good for our district, could we discuss it at a later date then?
Correct, that's why I'm saying, Ms. Villarreal, what I can do is provide to you all the things we currently do, all right? Then you can take a look at that and kind of compare it to what you sat in and decide, you know what, I think we're already doing enough, or, you know what, I think this is something, and then you can put that on the agenda and say, I want to discuss this being added to the school district.
That's great, but
Okay.
Did anybody actually reach out to the school district, the one that I had spoken to you guys about?
No, not at this time. We haven't reached out. We are in the process of working through a mental health program, and so we were working through that piece first, but I do have the card to contact them as well.
Okay, because I'd really like to see your take on,
Yes, ma'am.
and also the costs involved, because I know costs, that's very, but, you know, there's no amount of cost, if we could save a life, there's no cost that, you know,
Agreed.
is too great.
Yes, ma'am.
So, okay, I appreciate it,
Yeah, we'll follow up.
thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else?
I have a request for 2 summary emails. It's all 7 of us. So Dr. Micah, if you want to. The first one is about the status of the CETA program that I'm excited about. Hope we're able to get launched next year. No pun intended, but I guess. I guess to include status of the NASA agreement. Are there any key industries that we still need for the professional steering committee, if that's what we're calling it? Pending key positions for the program itself. Are we still missing some key professionals or teachers? And any roadblocks, if any, getting curriculum established, with everything else you have. Kind of 4 simple bullet points.
Mr. Jarrett, I think already has all this.
I was
That's
saying,
gonna
sure
be
you
pretty
guys,
quick
it'd be nice
for
to
us
get
to
a-
provide it to you.
Nice to get an update since I know you guys have been working really hard on that. The second email that I would like emailed to all of us. We received, it might be already working on this, but we'll get the request out first. We received an email letter from Evelyn Delgado with the Healthy Futures of Texas. We've also received an email from the committee chair of the Classroom Health and Sex Education, sort of disputing some of the claims in Ms. Delgado's letter. And we've now, I guess, right before our meeting, received an email from the SHAC chair, kind of weighing in as well. I would like to know, in an email to all of us, that what information was relayed to the SHAC about the Big Decisions curriculum, what was presented to the public about the status of Big Decisions. I know that there's a video, I have not had a chance to watch it. I was not able to attend the public meeting. If there's a quick couple sentences of what was stated, or if you just tell us watch the video on this one, that's fine too. And if we plan to respond to the Healthy Futures of Texas letter. That's already in the works. But I feel we owe them a response. But I'd like to know, getting several emails from a couple of different sources, and I'd like to have that all summarized.
So I saw one or two of those emails. One, I think I need to sit down with legal. I know Mr. Jimenez and I met about it briefly today. And then as far as a response, this is kind of a gray area, because as you all well know, the SHAC is your committee. It's not my committee, right? So how or who we respond from is kind of up to you all.
Sure.
I mean, if you all want me to respond, absolutely, I can send it to you, and we can, take care of it. But that's not my committee. I'm not running that.
Well, let's do this. I would like to for sure get information as to what has been relayed to SHAC about that curriculum, and in a summary of what was provided at that public meeting, as far as what was told to the people in attendance.
Well, and I was actually going to reach out to Dr. Micah tomorrow and Mr. Lopez based on the emails that we've gotten. So
I think having a follow-up to all of us would be helpful, so we understand what the.
Yeah, because I anticipate Mr. Legal told the SHAC still there, Mrs. Aguilar, and pass it on to the SHAC actual committee, so just make sure we know what was passed, and then obviously the translation piece that Mr.
Yeah, we don't want to play phone. We want to get to the facts.
Yeah.
Here's the facts as so Joe Friday.
Joe Friday, yes, that'd be great.
There, that just dated me, didn't it?
The final thing I have to say is I would be remiss if I did not, I know this is the proper form, but I'm saying it anyway, that I don't, similar to people that came and spoke to us about throwing allegations at one of our colleagues, and them being unfounded, I would appreciate if people in the public didn't accuse us up here, including myself, of being grooming students. I think that was highly inappropriate. And I also think keeping our teachers out of that allegation until things run their course would also be appropriate. So I'd give everybody, take pause when you're doing that. We're doing the same thing. So thank you, that's it.
okay. I'm going to adjourn at 9:37.
You're good. How's it going? Good. All right. Doing all right? Miss you.
Have a good night. Thank you. Not on my calendar.
So I have level 1, level 2 record. Got everything with the audio. Yeah. By the way, click here. Exactly what's in the city. So they actually did have in the first 2 years. Yeah. So 2 projects.
There you go. All right.
So hopefully by 2025 we'll know how everything is justified and spelled out.
How'd the meeting go?
A lot of work, but no, I appreciate you putting it in my part. Yes, well, you both actually get my keys, right? Oh, okay.
And that's what I'm gonna try. I don't think they have.
Thank you.
Because we already had.
Whatever I can do.
You know what I'm saying? But I think they also need to get them ready to help when they ready to write their findings.
So are you expecting them to be done with that?
Well, when you found an issue in the army, I think they could. It may not, it could be, it just depends, you know, where it takes it. But it could be done. It says, well, just take it, they can do it. County, and they have to send it to state zero. So it kind of has the same time on it, actually.
That's why I want to, yeah, I just got to get first. Well, several the radio.
You have a good night.
Yeah, but the remedy, that remedy is not satisfied. We reopened.